Welcome to the Gathering Web City podcast. Thank you for joining us today. We're so happy that you're here. Let's get into God's Word. So today, we are going to be talking about those rattling bones. Yeah, those rattling bones. We're going to be hanging out in Ezekiel 37. And I spent some time in there this week, and it blessed me. There's a lot to unpack, but I'm excited about it. And Ezekiel got a vision of dry bones in this valley, and they're going to come to life. And I was thinking about it. There's been some interesting things that have taken place over the last several years that may be kind of like that a little bit. Peter Keegan, he's a Kenyan man, that he was declared dead in 2020. The mortuary staff had him in there, and they were preparing the body. And all of a sudden, he woke up screaming at the top of his lungs. Now imagine, you're just in there doing your job. You're just working on him, trying to make him look good for a funeral. And all of a sudden, right in the middle of it, talk about a bad day at work. Talk about a rough day at work. Peter Keegan woke up screaming. It was a Polish man. His name was Kamil, I think is how you pronounce that, in 2016. He was pronounced dead following a heavy night of drinking. And they're in the morgue, and they've got him in there, and he woke up naked in a refrigerated morgue drawer, and staff heard him from inside the drawer asking for a blanket. He was cold. It's funny, you read the story, and they said, we were just in there working, and we heard a voice coming out of the little refrigerated chamber asking for a blanket. It was Kamil. He woke up and he was cold. I don't know who would be more terrified. Kamil that's lying in the refrigerated morgue, or the people on the outside hearing him asking for a blanket. I don't know, but boy, that would be strange, wouldn't it? That would be an alarming thing to take place in our life. Now Ezekiel's going to be transported in a vision to a valley where there would be some pretty alarming things that he was going to see. He was going to see some death transforming into life. In his case, the deceased were just a little bit more deceased than what we talked about. So let's go to Ezekiel 37, 1 through 14, and we'll walk our way through this real quick. And then we got a lot of different places that I want to go with it, all right? And Ezekiel says this, "The Lord took hold of me, and I was carried away by the Spirit of the Lord to a valley filled with bones. He led me all around among the bones that covered the valley floor. They were scattered everywhere across the ground and were completely dried out. Then he asked me, 'Son of man, can these bones become living people again?' 'O sovereign Lord,' I replied, 'you alone know the answer to that.' From his own physical being and in his own mind, he's looking out, and I know he's thinking, probably not. But Lord, you're the only one that knows the answer. And then he said to me, 'Speak a prophetic message to these bones and say, dry bones, listen to the word of the Lord. This is what the sovereign Lord says. Look, I am going to put breath into you and to make you live again. I will put flesh and muscle on you, cover you with skin, and I will put breath into you, and you will come to life. Then you will know that I am the Lord.' So I spoke this message just as he told me. Suddenly, as I spoke, there was a rattling noise all across the valley. The bones of each body came together and attached themselves as complete skeletons." That'd be something to see, wouldn't it? "And then as I watched, muscles and flesh formed over the bones. Then skin formed to cover their bodies, but they still had no breath in them. And then he said to me, 'Speak a prophetic message to the wind, son of man. speak a prophetic message and say, this is what the sovereign Lord says. Come, O breath from the four winds, breathe into these dead bodies so that they may live again. So I spoke the message as he commanded me, and breath came into their bodies. They all came to life, and they stood up on their feet, a great army. And then he said to me, Son of man, these bones represent the people of Israel. They are saying, we have become old, dry bones. All hope is gone. Our nation is finished. Therefore prophesy to them and say, this is what the sovereign Lord says. O my people, I will open your graves of exile and cause you to rise again. Then I will bring you back to the land of Israel. When this happens, O my people, you will know that I am the Lord. I will put my spirit in you, and you will live again and return home to your own land. Then you will know that I, the Lord, have spoken, and I have done what I said. Yes, the Lord has spoken. So whenever you read about Ezekiel in the valley of dry bones, and what God is showing him is that these bones are lifeless, they're dried up, they've got no signs of life anywhere, they're not even together in the form of a skeleton, they're scattered. It looks like complete destruction. And this was a representation of the condition that Israel was in at that time. You see, they were in a really bad spot as a nation, because they weren't even a nation at this point. They were in one of the roughest times that they had ever been in. You see, this was written during Babylonian exile. So we're going to go back in history just a little bit and explore, how did we get to this point? How did we get to the place where this prophecy was going to need to be given? So as we go back a little bit, we have King David and we have Solomon. And during that time, we have Israel as one just amazing kingdom that is united. They are militarily strong in battle. David would take them out and there would be conquest that would happen. They would grow and they would be strong and feared, and the Lord would bless. Then would come Solomon, a man of peace, and now you've got the temple that's being built. And this is a prosperous time for the land. And then you're going to have Solomon that's going to die. And this is going to mark some changes that are going to happen. Now, Solomon, toward the end of his life, had made some mistakes a little bit. And one thing that he had done is he was taxing the northern tribes of Israel very, very heavily. Well, whenever his son, Rehoboam, takes over, these 10 tribes of Israel, they come down to Rehoboam, and they have leaders that come and they present a case to Rehoboam saying, these heavy taxes that we have, we're not doing that good economically. Right now we're struggling. There's some unfair policies. Can you help us with this? You're the king now. Well, some of Solomon's advisors came and they talked to Rehoboam and they said, if you will listen to them and show them some kindness and listen to what they say, then they will serve you from now on and things are going to go well for you. But if you don't, they will not. Well, what did Rehoboam do? He had some men that had grown up with him, that were young men that he had put in a position of authority as an advisor. And you know what they told him to do? Just the opposite. They said, you've got to show these people who's boss. You've got to drop the hammer on them and make them know that you're not a pushover. And Rehoboam had a choice that he had to make on what was he going to do at this moment. And he decided to listen to the young men that he had brought in. And he goes and he meets with these leaders of the 10 tribes of northern Israel. And this is the response that he gives them. He said, so my father Solomon, his yoke was heavy. But if you think it was heavy, it was nothing compared to the yoke I'm going to put on you. He said, you don't even understand what I'm getting ready to put on you. And he took this arrogant posture and he just let them know who was the boss. Well, that wasn't going to work very well, because now you had these 10 tribes that they're looking down at the southern tribes that are doing well, and they're saying we're not doing well, and they revolt. Now you've got a revolt on your hands. Things are messy. It's not looking good for the home team at this point. And what do? They break away through this revolt. There's a civil war right down the middle. And now you've got a divided kingdom. Now, there's a lot of problems with having a divided kingdom. You're lacking military power. You don't have the same strength that you have. Now you've got the northern kingdom made up of the 10 tribes, and Jeroboam is going to be their king. Then you have southern tribes that they are still going to have their allegiance to Rehoboam. And now you've got a divided kingdom. And a kingdom divided is one that's going to be difficult to stand, right? Isn't that what we're told? So you've got a problem starting way back here. Understand, in the northern kingdom, you had a lot of people that they would travel down to the southern kingdom to go to the temple, because that's where Jerusalem was, to worship. And Jeroboam, the king of this new kingdom, said, that's a problem, because if my people are going down there, then their allegiance might turn to Rehoboam and to the Davidic line down here at the temple. So he had a decision to make, and he said, well, to keep them from going down there, I know what I'm going to do. And he takes 2 golden calves and he sets them up to remind the people of their exile out of Egypt. And he tells the people, look, it's too much for you to go down to the temple. These are your gods that delivered you out of Egypt. And it was at that very moment God became incredibly displeased with the northern kingdom and Jeroboam. This is where all of the problems begin to happen between the divided kingdom. Now, understand that the capital that was going to happen up here is going to be eventually Samaria. And these are going to be your future Samaritans, right? So there was some bad blood that was boiling from the divided kingdom. Now, this is what's going to happen. He institutes idol worship, okay? And it's not long after that God has had enough of this, and the Assyrian army is going to come down into the northern kingdom, and they are going to defeat them because they were militarily weak, because they were divided, and the Assyrian army was going to take advantage of that. And then what the Assyrian army would always do whenever they came in is they would defeat the territory, but then they would take the people that were there and they would scatter them, because they wanted for you to lose your identity. It was important. They wanted you to take their identity, and they knew if they left you alone and you were together, you would lose your identity. So now, not only are they separated from the temple of God, now they are under the control of the Assyrians, who are going to scatter them amongst all of their territory, and they pick all of the ones that are the leaders and that are prominent, and they leave the poorest in the land to look after the crops in the fields. But the majority of the population that have money are all displaced to other areas. Now you've got this small remnant in northern Israel. And then comes phase 2 of what the Assyrians are going to do. Now they're going to take cultures and other people that they've conquered from other lands, and what are they going to do? They're going to displace them into where Israel was. Now we have even more problems, because now you have cultures that are different with different gods and different beliefs, and they're going to come into the land where Israel used to be, where the northern kingdom was. Eventually there would be strife, but then what's going to happen? What's going to happen next is they need each other. These new people that arrived, they don't know how to work the land. This is new territory. So they need those people that were left, and the people need them. So they start intermarrying. They start joining forces out of necessity to somewhat of a degree. And in doing this, now we start having a lot of problems, because they're bringing all of their gods. And then you had the Israelites, the Hebrews, that had their God. And now we're having a mingling of beliefs. So a thing happens very early on, right? These new people that come, they go to the king of Assyria and they say their God is sending lions to attack us and kill us because we don't know how to please this God of this territory. You see, in ancient times, pagans would believe that every particular land that you would go into, that there was a deity that was in control of that particular territory or province. And they said, we don't know how to please the territory of this new land that you've sent us, the God that's over that. So what does the Assyrian king do? He takes one of the priests that had been dispelled and he sends him back and says, teach the people how to worship the God of this province. So now you've got the pagans that are worshiping the God in that province, but at the same time, they still have all of their other gods they're worshiping. He's just one God among many. All of a sudden, now you have the Israelites that are doing the same thing. And this becomes incredibly problematic. And you see this huge divide that begins to happen. There's a huge divide. As time would move forward and as time would go on, people would worship Yahweh more and more and more. And you had the original Hebrews that they still wanted to be faithful to God, but yet their heart was over here as well. You know, whenever the temple was being built, and you have Zerubbabel that's building the temple, some of those original Hebrews come and say, they say, let us help you build the temple. Zerubbabel says, no, you will have no part in it. You'll have no part in it because of what you're doing. And this made them angry and mad. And now this is where the bad blood really starts. Once they were rejected and they were told, you have no part in Israel, you have no part in the temple, all of a sudden they decide that they are the true remnant and the keeper of the Torah. They've got a revelation and they build their own temple to God on Mount Gerizim. It's got a Holy of Holies in it. It's set up. They still keep the Passover and all of these old feasts and traditions. And these are going to still be happening, and they build it. And now you have what used to be northern Israel and you have southern Israel. You have two different worship practices. You have two temples competing with each other, each one thinking that they have it figured out and that it's correct. Southern Israel did because they were at the original temple through the Davidic line offering sacrifices to God. But there would be bad blood that was just boiling and that was happening through all of this. Later on, there was going to be a guy by the name of John Hyrcanus, I think is how you pronounce it. He's going to lead a group of Jews up to that mountain, and they're going to go up and destroy the temple on top of the mountain. And this was seen as absolutely terrible by the Samaritans. And their hatred for the Jews would grow. And the Jews' hatred toward them would grow so much that even to touch something that a Samaritan had touched was unclean. To drink from a Samaritan well was unclean. Even to just be in the presence of a Samaritan would get you in trouble. It was an absolute mess. Just a little bit later, now you've got, in all of their arrogance, the southern kingdoms, and Babylon is going to come and take over the southern kingdoms. And now they're going to be exiled out of their land to Babylon. So now what's happened to Israel? It's a mess. We got two divided kingdoms. Everything is crazy. What's going on? And they thought their nation was finished. It's over for us. We are in the hands of two foreign powers. We're divided. We're not even a nation anymore. Where is the hope? What's going on? And I love this because at the time that this prophecy was going to be given with the dry bones, this is where Israel is at that point. It is a mess. And it's been about 70 years at that point, and they go, what in the world's going to happen to us? We have no hope. What are we going to do? And then Ezekiel gets the vision. Now in this vision, and God is speaking to him, and he leads him into this valley of dry bones. And he says, look, I'm going to put breath into you and make you live again. I'll put flesh and muscle on you. Cover you with skin. I'll put breath into you and you will come to life. At their deepest, darkest moment, when it seemed like it was impossible and nothing good could happen for them, that they felt abandoned by God, all of a sudden, God is going to let them know that this situation that seems hopeless is not going to be hopeless. Now, they would read this prophecy, and God is going to say, I'm going to bring you back and reunite you. I am going to reestablish the kingdom, and I'm going to reestablish it with power. And it says later on in the verse through David, and that my presence will be among you. And so they are expecting for the Messiah to come and is going to reunite them to what they were before the rebellion happened, before the kingdom was divided. The Messiah was going to come, and he was going to be the ruler that was going to be put on the throne, that was going to reunite everything and make it better, and was going to take over all of their enemies, and was going to set things straight and restore the nation of Israel to all of its glory. And that's what they were expecting. They were thinking in their mind, these dry bones coming back to life is Israel coming back to life, but at the glory that it was in a kingdom with an earthly king and taking vengeance upon our enemies. And this was their expectation and what they thought. And what they didn't realize the whole time is that this was prophetically pointing forward to Jesus, and that the kingdom was going to be restored. It was going to be brought back together, where there would no longer be any Greek, there would no longer be any Jew, male nor female, slave or free, but that all would be made right through God. And the restoration of this kingdom that was going to be happening was going to be done spiritually. And the temple would not be a temple that was made by man, but it would be you and it would be I, and God's presence would dwell within us. And that's one reason why they rejected Jesus so hard, is because they couldn't understand how this was going to be fulfilled. It just didn't make sense to them. They couldn't make it make sense. And I thought about this. If you go a little further, there's all this fighting that's been happening. They're divided. But Jesus is going to reveal how this is going to be fulfilled. He's going to tell them exactly what he's going to do. And it's so interesting on how he chooses to do it. John 4:19 through 26. And it says that he went through Samaria. Now understand, you would not go through Samaria. If you needed to go from Galilee and you were working, you would go around. You would take a longer path. You would not go through Samaria, because it would make you unclean to come in contact with a Samaritan. It was dangerous. They hated each other. They hated one another. But what did Jesus do? He intentionally goes through Samaria, right into the heat of conflict with his disciples, who are probably going, are you sure we're on the right road, Jesus? This is not safe. This is not the way to go. But what does he do? He takes them right into it, to a well, Jacob's well. And there's going to be a woman there that's going to be drawing water. Now, Jesus is about ready to violate everything you can possibly violate in accordance with the law. He's going to be talking to a woman that you shouldn't be doing. She's a Samaritan. He's going to drink water that she would be willing to give to him. And he's going to reveal things to her that only he could have known. Right in the middle of Samaritan land, that everybody would just look at them and, oh, how could you can't be around them, Jesus. Oh, but Jesus has a thing for broken people, and he takes the dry bones and puts them back together. He puts it all together. It's his perfect will to do it. And Jesus is telling her that I'm going to give you a water that whenever you drink it, you're never going to thirst again. She says, please give that to me. The woman said in verse 19, you must be a prophet, so tell me, why is it that you Jews insist that Jerusalem is the only place of worship, while we Samaritans claim it is here at Mount Gerizim? Remember, they had put their own temple there. That's where they worshiped God. And then you had the northern kingdom, and they would come back after Babylonian exile. They were worshiping in Jerusalem. And she asked him about that. Why is it that you Jews insist that Jerusalem is the only place of worship, while we Samaritans claim it's here at Mount Gerizim, where our ancestors worshipped? And listen to Jesus' reply. Believe me, dear woman, the time is coming when it will no longer matter whether you worship the Father on this mountain or in Jerusalem. You Samaritans know very little about the one you worship, while we Jews know all about him. For salvation comes through the Jews. But listen to this. The time is coming indeed. It's here now when true worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and in truth. The Father is looking for those who will worship him in that way. For God is spirit, so those who worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth. All of this fighting between the Samaritans that were part Jewish and part pagan, all of the fighting between them and all of the fighting between the Israelites on where was the correct place to worship, the bones that were rattling that were going to be put back together, and the flesh that was going to be put on, and the life that was going to be brought wasn't going to be brought through an earthly man-made temple. And there's coming a time where you're no longer going to have to argue about which mountain or temple you're going to worship at. But indeed, it's here now when true worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and in truth. The Father is looking for those who will worship this way, for God is spirit, so those who worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth. And the woman said, I know the Messiah is coming, the one who is called Christ. When he comes, he'll explain everything to us. And then Jesus told her, I am the Messiah. Oh, to a Samaritan woman breaking all of the rules, he would bring about the fulfillment of the valley of dry bones. And at that moment, he's showing her that restoration is coming for God's people, and that it's not going to matter what nation you reside in, because everyone is going to be brought back into where they have an opportunity for relationship with the Father, from every nation, from every tribe, from every tongue. The true children of Abraham are the ones that listen to my words and that call out to me. And he gave her divine information. He revealed to her who he was. He gave her intimate knowledge. This woman that had all of these husbands, she was a Samaritan. She was outcast. You're not even supposed to be there. Oh, but she would hear this message, and it would be revealed to her powerfully. Whenever we think about Ezekiel in the valley of dry bones, I think about your life and I think about my life. And sometimes we can go through places where we spiritually feel dried up and we feel barren and we feel like there's nothing left for us. God, where are you? And we're overwhelmed and it seems hopeless at times. But listen to the word of the Lord. It's amazing. Those bones didn't begin to move until the word of the Lord came upon them. The separation between the Samaritans and the Israelites, that didn't begin to bridge and begin to heal until the word of God was brought forth to that woman. And it would just be a short time later that you're going to have evangelists going in, and there would be peace in Samaria, and you're going to have early churches that are being birthed right there in the land that Jews couldn't even walk through. And it's going to be a hub of early Christianity right there, not at Mount Gerizim, but right there in the middle of Samaria. There's going to be churches that are planted, and the gospel's going to be going forth. And God's presence is once again going to dwell amongst his people. And he would not be a respecter of persons, because his presence would dwell right there among the Samaritans, just as he would with the Jews. Because Jesus came to seek and save the lost, and to die for the world, to restore what is broken. And just as he restored what was broken and what had happened through the division in Israel, he can come into your life and into mine and restore the areas of brokenness. It doesn't matter if you have children that are away from God, if you have parents that are not believers, if you have an illness upon your body or a sickness that you're dealing with, if you're going through temptations that you don't think you can overcome, whatever division has happened within your life from one side to the other, and you feel like a valley of dry bones, the division can be healed through the wind of God. The wind of God is the Spirit of God that comes into you through the power of the Holy Spirit, and it will shake the bones of your life, and it will bring you back to life. It will restore the broken. It will put it back together. The muscle and flesh that would go on the bones would represent power, because without the muscle, they're not going to move. So it would represent power whenever the breath of God comes on you and the Spirit dwells in you. The flesh that comes upon you isn't of yourself, but it is of God, and it's His power that will be on you. The skin that would come over the bones represents the protection that would come upon those bones. Whenever the Spirit of God comes into your life and He breathes on you and He dwells inside of you, He gives you His power. He gives you His protection. And then ultimately what He does is He takes what was spiritually broken and He breathes His very own breath into it, into your lungs. And now the Spirit of Christ dwells in you, and you have the authority that comes with that. Everything broken in your life can be mended. The separations in your life can be put back together. And it's all because God is a God of the broken. He is not afraid of brokenness. He is not afraid of a dry place that you're going through. We can go out into a lost and dying world, and we can see people out there that we see dry bones. We can see Samaritans that are untouchable, but God is not scared of that. God sees life. He sees what they can be after His Spirit comes into them, and He raises them up, and He can heal the division and the brokenness and put them back together. He doesn't see a Samaritan sinful woman sitting on a well. He sees somebody that's a precious child that He loves, that's an image bearer of Christ, that He died for, and He's willing to reveal Himself to messed up, broken people. And He's still doing that today. Amen? This has been the Gathering Web City Podcast. Remember, keep your eyes on Jesus, and if you do that, you are going to have a great day.